Yes.
The Dalai Lama, his great wish, he wishes for nothing.
You can't tell anybody to wish that, or it won't come true.
Supposed to blow it up. Then do we cut it up?
So Bhante, before we started, it was asked of me if I would, in honor of your birthday, sing a metta chant, or a portion of the metta chant, in honor of your teachings. And so, and I understand that monastics are not meant to get pleasure from music and entertainments, so I will do my best to be as bad as possible. To be as bad as possible.
No, you could try to be as good as possible.
So if people want to follow along the words, I tried to leave copies on the tables. So I dedicate this to Bhante. Aham avirohomi, abhyapajo homi, amigo homi, sukhiyatana Hariarami, Mama Mata Pitu, Acharya Cha, Nyati Meta Cha, Sabrama Charino Cha, Awera Hondu, Abhyapaja Hondu, Aniga Hondu, Sukhiyatanam, Pariharantu, Ima Samena Rame, Sabe Yogino, Avera Hondu, Abhyapaja Hondu, Aniga Hondu, Sukhiyatanam Hariharandu, Ima Samena Rame Sabe Bhikkhu, Samanera Cha, Upasaka Upasikaya Cha, Avera Hondu, Abhyapaja Hondu, Aniga Hondu, Sukhiyatanam Pariharandu, Amakam Chatapachaya Dayaka, Avera Hondu, Abhyapaja Hondu, Aniga Hondu, Sukhiyatanam Hariharandu, Amakam Araka Devata, Ima Samen Vihare, Ima Samen Avase, Ima Samen Arame, Araka Devata, Avera Hondu, Abhyapaja Hondu, Aniga Hondu, Sukhiyatanam Hariharandu, Sabe Sata, Sabe Pana, Sabe Bhuta, Sabe Pogala, Sabe Atabhava, Sabba itiyo, sabbe purisa, sabbe ariya, sabbe anariya, sabbe deva, sabbe manusa, sabbe vinipatika, avera hondu, avyapaja hondu, aniga hondu, sukiyatanam pariyarandu, dukkha muchantu yatha lada sampatito mavigachantu kama sakha.
Very good, you.
Beautiful.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Very kind, very thoughtful. Okay, so let us begin with the homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, good morning everybody. Okay, so today we will be continuing with Sutta number 62 in the Majjhima Nikaya. Again, this is the Maha-Rahulovada Sutta, the greater of the longer discourse of advice to Rahula. Okay, just to review that the main part of this discourse, Venerable Rahula goes to the Buddha and asks how mindfulness of breathing is of great fruit and great benefit. But the Buddha doesn't directly or immediately explain to Rahula how to practice mindfulness of breathing. Instead, he begins by explaining to him the meditation on the 5 elements. And probably the reason why the Buddha is explaining the meditation on the elements to Rahula is because, as I mentioned last week, Rahula is now becoming a young man. He's 18 years old, and he's developed pride, some degree of pride, based on apparently his physical beauty. And so the Buddha wants him to be able to overcome the attachment to the body. And so the way to overcome the attachment to the body is by examining the body in terms of the 5 elements and seeing that all of the elements are anatta, not self, not to be taken as I or mine. And the 5 elements are the 4 primary material elements: earth, water, fire, and air, and then the space element. So last week we went through the meditation on the 4 elements. And this is an interesting point to note, that usually when we explain Buddhist meditation, we think that you start by practicing samatha, or concentration meditation, and then you move to vipassana, insight meditation. But in this sutta, the Buddha begins directly by teaching Rahula the elements, the meditation on the 4 elements, and that's an insight meditation subject. And then as the sutta unfolds, the Buddha will introduce meditation subjects that belong to the, usually classified under samatha, serenity or stilling the mind. And so, even though the usual procedure is to develop samadhi or samatha before developing vipassana, another approach is possible by which insight comes first, and then based on the insight, one goes on to balance the insight by developing serenity or concentration. Okay, so what we covered last time takes us through on page 529 through section 12. Now we come to section 13. And it seems here the Buddha is going to use the 5 elements as similes, but the emphasis here is going to be on developing equanimity, or the commentary explains this with a technical term. Yeah, the technical term is tadi bhava. Which could be translated as equipoise or imperturbability. Wait a minute! Can't see down there. Okay, so this quality that's to be developed is tadi bhava, equanimity, balance of mind, imperturbability. And so the Buddha will use each of the 5 elements as a simile for showing that particular quality that is to be developed in meditation. So he says, Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For when you develop meditation that is like the earth, then the arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. They won't obsess your mind. Okay, so this is the kind of ideal quality to be aimed at through the practice of meditation. Eventually the practice is moving in the direction of equanimity. And as one is moving in that direction, then certain barriers come up. And here those barriers are put into the 2 categories, the 2 things that tend to move one away from
Sorry.
Somebody was asking a question?
Actually, I couldn't type in the word, so I need to open another page.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't aware that the sound is on.
Okay. Okay, so as one is moving towards equanimity, the two sort of distractions, or two things that tend to pull one away, are sometimes painful experiences, sometimes pleasurable experiences. The pleasurable experiences are described here as agreeable contacts, and the painful or disagreeable, the painful or unpleasurable experiences are described as disagreeable contacts. So the agreeable contacts could actually be of two kinds. One is, you might call the pull of the lower mind. It is the mind which is pulling you towards kind of like thoughts of sensuality, thoughts of sensual indulgence. This would be like the hindrance of sensual desire, or the fetter of sensual craving. And then the higher type of agreeable contact would be the blissful, rapturous, or very agreeable experiences that arise as the mind becomes collected and concentrated. So even though those higher pleasurable experiences are signs of progress, signs of auspicious signs, but if one becomes attached to them, then they will hinder one's progress. And so one has to overcome the agreeable sensations or agreeable contacts, whether they arise from sensual thoughts, sensual images and imaginings, or whether they be the more blissful, rapturous, delightful experiences that come through the collection of the mind. And then there come the disagreeable contacts, which can be sometimes physical. You know, when one is sitting in meditation, there'll come pain in the legs, pain in the joints, pain in the back. And also there'll be disagreeable mental experiences. Again, sometimes lower types of experiences. For example, thoughts of anger, thoughts of ill will, recollections of sorrowful things that make one feel sorrowful, angry, frustrated, or thoughts about people that one doesn't like. So these will all be experiences arising from the hindrance of ill will. But then there's also a higher type of disagreeable contact or disagreeable experience that comes when one strives very diligently, very earnestly, and one has high expectations, and then one doesn't fulfill one's expectations. Often one thinks one can just move very rapidly into the deeper stages of meditation, and instead you have to plod through stream after stream of distracting thoughts, and then this one can cause one to feel frustrated, to feel upset, to feel disappointed. So also these are types of disagreeable contacts. And so we could say that generally the disagreeable contacts, usually they would fall in the category of the hindrance of sensual desire or the hindrance of ill will or aversion. And so for the meditation to deepen and to become consolidated, one has to remove these agreeable and disagreeable contacts. And one removes them, of course they arise naturally, but one removes them by not giving them special attention, but letting them go and moving, keeping the mind focused on the meditation subject. Though if certain of these types of experience become particularly persistent, then there are approaches to meditation which can be used as their precise antidotes. The text will come to these in a later section. Okay, now the Buddha uses a very vivid simile to illustrate how one develops a mind that is like the earth. So he says, just as people throw clean things and dirty things on the earth, but the examples he gives are only the dirty things. Excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood. But also, people will throw maybe flowers, maybe burnt out sticks of incense, leftover food, which is delicious, but if there's too much, it might be thrown away on the earth. Okay, so the earth will not be repelled, humiliated, and disgusted because of the dirty things, and also it won't be attached to the pleasant things that are thrown on it. But the earth is open and accepts everything, whether it's clean or dirty, beautiful or repulsive. And so the Buddha says, develop meditation like the earth, so that the agreeable and disagreeable contacts won't obsess your mind. Okay, then he uses the simile of water. And then he says, to illustrate, he used water as the illustration, he says, just as people wash clean things and dirty things in water, and so, we go to the toilet, the excrement, the urine goes into the water. If we have to spit out, well actually in Asia they use the spittoon, so people spit into the spittoon, and then they wash the spittoon with water. Or if one gets a wound and then pus and blood flows out, then one washes it with water. But the water isn't repelled, humiliated, and disgusted by those repulsive things. And also when we use water to wash things that are considered beautiful, beautiful clothes, if you have beautiful hair, beautiful face, and you wash it with water, the water isn't attracted and excited, but the water treats everything the same. So in that way, develop meditation that is like water. Then develop meditation that is like fire. And again, the simile, just as people burn clean things and dirty things. For some reason, they always use the dirty things in the extension of the simile. Excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood. But also they would burn, what are some of clean things, what burns in fire? Incense, yeah.
Birthday candles.
Okay, candles, that's the candles, incense. In Asia we have the coconut oil to make the coconut oil lamps. In Tibet they use butter lamps. So the fire doesn't repel by the dirty things, and it doesn't cling to the beautiful, valuable things. Then air, develop meditation that is like air. And just as the air blows on clean things and dirty things, it blows over, let's take some beautiful things, clean things. It blows over fields of flowers, grass, wheat, rice. And also it blows over the dirty things like excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood. But the air doesn't become delighted when it blows through the flowers or the woods, picking up the scent of the pine trees. And it's not repelled when it has to blow over garbage dumps and cesspits, but it always just remains the same, it just moves the same. Okay, then develop meditation that is like space. Okay, just as space is not established anywhere, so develop meditation that is like space. So when you develop meditation that is like space, arisen, agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. So space is all-pervading, and therefore space can accommodate everything, whether it's considered beautiful or ugly. Space can hold, again, the fields, the flowers, the trees, the woods, great works of art. And space can also hold ugly cities, polluted cities, garbage dumps, cesspits, all of them are located in space. Okay, so the 4 or 5 elements are, say, all embracing, all accommodating. They can accept everything good and bad, beautiful and ugly, without any attachment to one and aversion to the other. So metaphorically, we could say the 5 elements are always in a state of equanimity, balance, equipoise. They're not disturbed by anything positive or negative. Okay, so now the Buddha is going to teach Rahula several meditation subjects that help to establish the state of equanimity, the state of equipoise. So first come the set which make up the 4 Brahma-viharas, the 4 divine abodes, or 4 sublime states. And these 4 are to be developed towards other sentient beings, other living beings. And their main purpose, looking at them collectively, is to overcome the disagreeable, to overcome things like ill will. And so we have first develop meditation on loving kindness. This, this is metta. Neil recited so beautifully just before the chant of loving kindness. So the quality of metta is wishing for the well-being and happiness of all beings. So metta takes all beings in general as its object, and its special characteristic is to wish for the well-being and happiness of all beings, oneself as well as others. So wishing beings to be well, that is, to be healthy of body, peaceful in mind, and wishing them to be happy, to experience happiness, joy, peace, contentment with their lives. And when loving kindness is developed, then it will eliminate its opposite, the negative quality, and that is vyapada, ill will. So loving kindness is the special medicine, the antidote towards anger, resentment, or ill will. Okay, the second Brahma-vihara is compassion. Loving kindness and compassion. And compassion, in Pali, karuna, this is the quality that makes the heart shake or tremble with the suffering of others. And it becomes manifest as the wish to help people or beings who are afflicted with suffering, the wish to relieve the suffering of others. So compassion has its special object, are people or sentient beings who are afflicted with suffering. Whereas metta begins in a universal way, a general way, with all beings, but the special focus of compassion are those who are afflicted with suffering. And its objective is to relieve the suffering of beings. And then here, I'm not so happy with the translation. It says that through developing the meditation on compassion, any cruelty will be abandoned. I'm not sure that cruelty is such a good rendering for vihesa. Vihesa is more like harming others or creating trouble for others. The word cruelty seems to suggest maybe taking a special pleasure, a kind of malicious pleasure in harming others. Whereas vihesa or vihimsa seems to mean simply harming others or inflicting suffering on others. It doesn't necessarily suggest that malicious pleasure that the word cruelty does. In any case, as one develops compassion, then one can feel and experience the suffering of others as if it were one's own. And so one can sort of inwardly relate to beings who are experiencing suffering. Then one doesn't want to inflict any suffering on anyone. And so the meditation on compassion is the specific method for knocking away this tendency towards harming others or causing trouble and distress for others. Okay, the third Brahma-vihara, here it's translated altruistic joy. This is in Pali, it's mudita. Let me write all of them. Okay, the word mudita, literally it means simply joy. But since this is coming in the context of the four sublime states, it's normally understood to mean rejoicing with others. That is, rejoicing in the happiness, success, good fortune, and good qualities of others. And so when one thinks about other people who have achieved fulfillment of their aims, who have achieved some success, whether it be worldly success or even spiritual success, or one thinks of the good qualities, the virtuous qualities of others, then one shares their own joy in their success and their good qualities, and one rejoices in that. So another word we can use for mudita is anumodana, which means more explicitly rejoicing with. It's a kind of congratulatory attitude. And then it's said that when you develop the meditation on mudita, altruistic joy, then any discontent will be abandoned. Discontent here is, I think it's arati. So this meditation on altruistic joy is actually very valuable when one feels that one's meditation practice is dry, or one feels lonely, or somewhat discontent with one's practice. I mean, everybody goes through periods like that. And sort of one way to overcome that is to suffuse the mind with joy, with happiness. And one can do this by thinking of the good qualities, the virtues of others, and rejoicing in their good qualities. And to do this, one doesn't even have to choose, or doesn't have, the way I see it, one doesn't have to start with specific people that one knows. If one finds it difficult, what you could do is think of the Buddhas and rejoice in their attainment of Buddhahood. And then think of all of those who have reached advanced stages of the path, maybe the great bodhisattvas, the arhats, the great noble disciples, and rejoice in their attainments. And then rejoice in all of the people that you know who are doing good in the world. And then this will help to build up joy and happiness in the mind. And to really sort of advance in the spiritual life, it's extremely important to have joy and happiness. Because this joy and happiness, this is actually the foundation for focusing and concentrating the mind. So when one arouses this altruistic joy, then it leads to the arising of piti, of rapture or delight, and then that will lead to sukha, to happiness or bliss. Okay, and then the fourth Brahmavihara, fourth divine abode, is called Upekkha, equanimity. And since the Brahmaviharas are concerned with living beings, this is equanimity towards other beings, other sentient beings, other people, other sentient beings. And the way I understand it, it doesn't mean indifference or apathy towards others. but it means impartiality. It means being able to look on other beings as equal without having special preferences for this one over that one, but thinking of all beings as essentially the same. No complaints from you. And also, sometimes one has to also develop equanimity especially when people are undergoing suffering that one really can't do anything about. At a certain point, in order to protect one's own mind, one has to accept that there are conditions where one can't really be effective. And so, under those conditions, one develops the meditation on equanimity. And one could do this. There are two approaches that I've learned. One is through the teaching of anatta, and that is reflecting that all beings are really without any kind of true, permanent, substantial self. Just, processes of the five aggregates. And then this one enables one to sort of step back and look at them without this discrimination or bias. And then the second approach is to reflect on karma, that beings inherit the results of their karma, that all beings are the heirs to their karma. And so again, it doesn't mean that one doesn't try one's best to help people who are subject to different types of suffering, but when all one's efforts don't come to fulfillment, then at a certain point one has to be able to look at the situation with equanimity. And one can do this by reflecting that beings inherit the results of their karma. Okay, then, here in this sutta, the meditation on equanimity is given as the specific antidote to aversion. It's said that when you develop meditation on equanimity, then any aversion will be abandoned. Aversion here in Pali, it's patika. This strikes me a little bit puzzling, because aversion is usually connected with ill will. So one would think that the antidote to aversion will be loving kindness. And I found in another sutta, in Anguttara Nikaya, where the Buddha is speaking about how different meditation subjects are opposed to certain defilements or unwholesome states. He says that the meditation on equanimity is the antidote to attachment. So it seems to me that maybe equanimity can be the antidote to both attachment and aversion, because its purpose is to establish the balanced state between, not between attachment and aversion, but the balanced state that transcends attachment and aversion. Somebody is going to comment?
Well, I just was, as a social worker, I'm working with people who are...
Maybe if there's that mobile microphone.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, anyway, you have a...
Anyway, I just wanted to say that when you work with people who are severely burned or have severe mental illness, your instinct is initially aversion.
Oh.
Okay, so the equanimity is the thing you have to learn when in the midst of population suffering
Yeah, oh, that's a very good point.
that's all.
That's a very good observation. Yeah, I'll just repeat that so that people in the back would hear. She said that she had been a social worker, and sometimes she has to work with people who had extreme burns or in extremely debilitating conditions. And then the initial reaction is one of aversion, and then to overcome that and to be able to deal with them, one has to develop equanimity.
Yeah, the Chinese version shows like pride is abandoned. Pride will be abandoned when one develops equanimity.
And
Pride here.
Pride.
Yeah, the
Pride.
Chinese version shows so. I mean the Chinese version.
In the Chinese version,
Yes.
it says that equanimity will overcome pride.
Yes.
I'm not so sure because later we'll see that the perception of impermanence is recommended as a way to overcome conceit, the concitaya. I mean, it might be in the Chinese version, but it seems not so satisfactory to me as either attachment or aversion. Any questions or any comments at this point?
I have one question. A long time ago, we talked about karma, and you said that some things
Yeah,
were not as
Yeah.
happened,
yeah,
having
Yeah.
nothing to do with
yeah.
karma, right? I'm sorry, I've lost my spot.
Maybe because I said that one of the ways to develop equanimity is by reflecting that beings inherit the results of their...
Right, right.
Yeah, in fact I see that to be something like a skillful means, rather than to take it as a doctrinal statement that whatever happens to people happens as a result of their karma. Because this is under the circumstances where one tries to do one's best to help somebody, but no matter what one does, nothing can be done to help them. So then, under those conditions, one can reflect that, well, people inherit the results of their karma. Maybe this is that person's karma to suffer, and then one just has to accept the situation with equanimity.
Well, I guess we never know, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so I wouldn't take, the reflection on karma to be establishing a doctrinal point. Whatever they're undergoing is definitely the result of their karma. But if one reflects on the working of the law of karma, then at least it gives one a way to accept the situation as being incorrigible, unchangeable. Because maybe it is due to strong karma that's working through that person. Yeah.
I was surprised to hear you say that in the context of the Brahma-Viharas that Nikaya refers specifically to beings,
Yeah.
I guess sentient beings.
Yeah.
And also, I was curious about the distinction between Upeka and Tadibaba, which are also calling equanimity. So I would wonder, and especially since you're saying these Brahma-Viharas are practices to develop
Yeah.
that. So one of them is equanimity, and it's a practice to develop equanimity.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe Tadibaba is a more encompassing kind of equanimity that involves more than just human beings. And
Oh, yeah,
all experience.
Yeah. Okay, these are two good points. Yeah, first the word upeka, equanimity, it occurs in several contexts within the early Buddhist texts. So in some contexts, one of the main contexts is the Brahma-Viharas. And there, I think, to interpret it, we have to see that the other Brahma-Viharas are concerned with living beings. And so equanimity here should be understood to deal with beings. And that's the way it's explained in the commentaries as well. But there are other contexts where upeka isn't referring to impartiality towards other living beings. Like sometimes the texts speak about 6-factored equanimity. That means equanimity through the 6 sense faculties in regard to agreeable and disagreeable sense contacts. And then there's equanimity as an enlightenment factor. One of the last of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And there, equanimity is a state that develops, through very deep meditation. And I think there, it's particularly through insight meditation. After one has gone through samadhi, then one comes to insight, and then through the deep insight meditation, then the mind remains equanimous amidst the arising and passing of conditioned phenomena. Then Tadibhava, it seems, has the broader meaning of, I'd say, equipoise in regard to, here the text gives it in regard to agreeable and disagreeable contacts. I've seen some texts which explain it as remaining balanced in regard to what's called the 8 worldly phenomena. Gain and loss, honor and dishonor, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. So the balance in regard to the 8 worldly phenomena, the 4 pairs of worldly phenomena, that is Tadibhava. Yes, please.
A quick question about developing meditation like space. Here, the interpretation says, just as space is not established anywhere.
Yeah.
But when we talk about mindfulness, you are establishing mindfulness.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
And could you